Hey, something just happened in Idaho that is quite unique. It's never happened here before. What is it, and how does it affect you? Let's find out next. Hey everybody, Dave Edwards, Treasure Valley Dave here. You know your great real estate agent by your side when it comes time to buy a home, sell a home, or even relocate to the Treasure Valley. And if you're relocating to the Treasure Valley, maybe you're concerned about the education system. Maybe you've got kids, maybe you've got grandkids. Maybe you just want smart people to live around. Well, something's changed recently, and let's get right into it. But first, I want to let you know that at the end of this video, I'm going to be telling you about a real live example of someone that was homeschooling. So make sure you stick around for that. So what happened? Well, the Governor Little, he signed into, and this is from the governor's office right there, he signed House Bill 93 that created a parental choice tax credit program, and that's for education. With the passage of the $50 million parental choice tax credit program, Idaho boasts even more abundant schooling options for Idaho students and families. Well, that sounds interesting, huh? Let's see what else the governor said. So the governor continued by saying, Idaho's commitment to education is growing every year. I am proud that we have put close to $17 billion with a B into our K-12 school system since I took office. That was in 2019, and so it's been like 6 years. Higher math there. I must have graduated public school too. And he's increased public funding by close to 60% in just the last few years. So this is different, right? And so anytime you do something different, someone's ox is going to get gored. Someone's going to get their panties in a bunch. Can we say that anymore? We'll get into that, but just remember these numbers right here. 6 years, he spent $17 billion on education, and this bill that he just signed is going to take a very small, tiny little piece of that, $50 million, and allow parents to have more choice, some more say, not only where their kids go, but how their tax dollars go to follow their kids as the kids go through their educational journey. So let's move on to the next story. This is from the Idaho Education News. Governor Little signs private school tax credit into law. Well, okay, so the governor signed the House bill, blah, blah, blah. So the new $50 million program offers private schoolers and homeschoolers up to $5,000 or $7,500 for special needs students for tuition and other education expenses. The story also goes on that, yes, Little has increased public school funding by 60% in the last few years. And Little, who previously expressed skepticism about this whole idea, surprised many last month when he pledged $50 million for private school choice program. He said there's not enough accountability in it, meaning this new program that he signed into law, but I don't think there's enough accountability in the money that we give to public schools either. House Bill 93 cleared the House on a 42-28 vote and the State Senate on a 20-15 vote. And I point that out because people that have moved to Idaho, that have made Idaho more conservative, have not just made the atmosphere that people live in on a daily basis more conservative, but also their elected leaders in the House and in the State Senate are becoming more and more conservative, which is probably why we've never even seen, anything like this before, where parents are actually given some more money and some more freedom, because, without the money, how can you send your kid to someplace you can't afford, right? So this is a direct result of our friends and neighbors that have moved here, that have made Idaho more conservative. If it was native Idahoans that were all that conservative, this would have happened eons ago, but it never did. So all you Californians, Seattleians, Portlandians, and people from maybe even New Jersey, thank you so much for coming and helping Idaho get better. Moving along, said that the House Revenue and Taxation Committee received more than 1,000 emails. Most of those, 94%, were opposed to this wicked law going into effect. Next story, also from idahoeducationnews.org, said Governor Little's office received more than 32,366 messages calling for a veto of this bill, the bill he eventually signed. Altogether, Little's office received 37,457 phone calls and emails weighing in, and 86% were opposed. That sounds like a pretty massive, coordinated campaign to make sure the parents didn't have any financial means to do anything other with their kids other than sitting in the public school. Do you suppose the teachers' unions maybe got involved, or parent-teacher associations, or even teachers were saying, hey, have your parents make this phone call? I don't know. I could see it happening. And for maybe a slightly different perspective, we have this from the Idaho Freedom Caucus. And they reiterate that it's a $5,000 per child unless your child has disabilities. And then you can receive $7,500, but only for the actual expense incurred, meaning if you only incurred $2,000 in expenses, that's all you can claim as a tax credit. So this is a little bit of the logistics of just how the program works. If you don't have the money to get into private school, then you can request an advance payment. All right, that's kind of handy. Priority goes to families below 300% of the federal poverty level. So in Idaho, that's about $95,000 gross for a family of four, $65,000 adjusted gross. The bill calls for a wait list to be developed so that future lawmakers can consider if there's enough demand to grow the program. I'm kind of encouraged about that. It's a way for us, if this program works, to give the feedback to our representatives. And if you receive the tax credit in year one, then you get priority for year two. So that's some of the logistics about that. So let's look at an editorial. This is by Tea Party Bob. That's him right there. And he's talking with Ron Nate, who happens to be the president of the Freedom Foundation, the Idaho Freedom Foundation. And one of the comments that Ron Nate makes is that this bill's passage was a historic day for Idaho. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that. While some view the tax credit as a government handout, advocates point to the economics of the situation. Each student who leaves the public system removes approximately $13,000 in costs from that system while receiving only $5,000 in tax credits, resulting in a net savings to the government of $8,000 per student for Idaho taxpayers. And we have, of course, it's not all rainbows and Skittles and things like that. The bill is not without limitations. However, school choice advocates hope to eventually remove the enrollment caps, eliminate means testing's requirement, and reduce testing mandates on alternative education providers. There are also concerns about potential future attempts to regulate homeschooling, though current language in this bill does not affect homeschool families. We're not at the finish line, we're at the beginning. Take this as a place to start, a jumping off point where we are making differences, being we're more conservative up here in Idaho, and hopefully that's going to snowball and snowball as our kids become better educated. And what do I mean by that? Well, ever since COVID, and this is probably true across the entire country, test scores went down. And finally, we have an editorial here from Raul Labrador. He is our Idaho Attorney General and a conservative guy, good guy, does a lot of good stuff for the state of Idaho and the people here. So in his editorial, he says, after several years and several attempts, Idaho finally has a law supporting real school choice. As with most all legislation, it's not perfect, but it's a good start for something that plays an outsized role in our state, meeting the educational needs of our kids. Well, that is definitely hugely important. He goes on to say that almost $2.5 billion of taxpayer money every single year goes to public schools. And the Attorney General continues, to no one's surprise, there are those who oppose the idea of school choice, claiming that any public money spent on private education weakens a dismally underperforming system, and only by increasing the flow of money into that failing system can the outcomes be improved. Well, I'm sure he's absolutely right that there are people out there that think just exactly this. And of that $2.5 billion every year that goes to public education, to carve out just a little $50 million to help parents get their kids into a school that the parents deem is the best for their kids, how is that a big economic drain on the public school system? Well, the truth is it's not. What it is, it's a threat to show that maybe the public schools aren't doing as good a job as us as parents had hoped they would. And the Attorney General concludes, Idaho's new law will probably be challenged in court by those who oppose school choice based on the misapplication of the Blaine Amendment. And the Blaine Amendment, as he talks about in the details of his response to this bill passing, is something to do with the public funds can't be used for religious things. The school choice might be to a religious school. And so there's a lot of law and court stuff that he talks about in this article. But he does finish up by saying, however, as your Attorney General, I will be there to vigorously defend our school choice law every step of the way. So I think this is absolutely great, don't you? So finally, we're kind of at the beginning steps of having some accountability in education. So parents can now make the decision on where's the best place to send their kids for education, and then have some amount of their tax dollars going to help their kid get that education. So I think we're at the beginning of it. There's going to be, like the Attorney General said, there's going to be court fights and stuff like that. But I don't see how you can make that big of an argument about just this little bit of money out of that $2.5 billion every single year is going to make all that big of a deal as far as the economics go. But as the highlight that the kids that are involved in these other forms of education, these other opportunities are going to be coming, maybe have better results. And then what's the outcome of that? Public schools are going to have to perform better. And I know a lot of teachers, and they're absolutely great, and they want the best for their kids. But maybe there's some kind of a systemic thing that needs to change in the administration of the schools. There's a lot smarter people out there than I am. Remember, I graduated public school too, that is going to need to figure this out. But we live in a capitalistic society, right? And what is capitalism? It's market forces, it's competition. So if some kids are doing better over there in the non-traditional ways, that's got to make public schools do better. So that's a win-win for absolutely everybody. So the one thing I was going to tell you about is that not too long ago, we actually interviewed this great local family that does homeschooling, and they do it on such a great scale. Their kids are blessed for the rest of their lives. I have no doubt about that. So check that out. That video is right there. And if you're thinking of relocating up here to Treasure Valley, give me a call, Marina a call. We'd be glad to help you. Text, email, whatever it takes. And as always, Treasure Valley Dave, looking forward to helping you get home.